Welcome to Rave Waves, Eyes on the Book Show. Love is in the air. I'm your host, Rox Berkey, broadcasting live from Dallas, Texas. In honor of Valentine's Day tomorrow, today's show is being sponsored by If Only There Was Music, the poetry of forbidden love, co-authored by Risa author Nani Jules. If you'd like to know how to get your own commercial to air during one of our shows, just visit the Rave Waves tab on the RBBC website for information. It's a fantastic way to promote your books. Joining us today from Wendell, North Carolina, USA, is the author of Dream Wide Awake, CJ Zahner. CJ, is it okay if I call you Cindy?
Yes, Cindy's fine. I'm called by both, so.
Well, welcome. And listeners, if you have any questions or comments for CJ or Cindy, I will be opening up the floor for those questions and comments throughout the show. Your mics will remain muted until such time. And we ask that you please give us a little wave if you'd like to be recognized. At that time, you will be asked to unmute your mic. You may also access the chat function located at the bottom of your screen to type in your question or comments to us. Again, thank you for joining us today, Cindy. All of us here at RBBC are delighted to have you with us for February.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Before we really get started, I know that Cindy is your author name, but I really would like to call you Cindy. So
that's fine. That's good.
Okay, Cindy, can you share a little of your background as a person before you ventured into writing?
Well, I wanted to go into English way back when I started college, but I was working at a retail store and the summer before college, and there were 4 English majors working in retail. And so I really quickly changed my major to business, and always loving reading and writing. And I went into the business world and I ended up becoming a grant writer. And what I did, for years I did grant administration and writing. And then on the side, I did freelance writing for local newspapers and magazines in my hometown where I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania. And so I just did that until I retired. Let's see, it's 5.5 years ago now. And then I started to do what I always wanted to do, write books.
Well, that's remarkable. What a career path to your writing. So now that you're writing, more full time, when's the best time of day for you to write?
Morning. I'm definitely a morning person. 3 o'clock to if sleeping in is 6:45 and I wake up frantically like, oh my gosh, I slept in. So usually I get up between I would say 5:30ish.
Okay. So let's talk about your psychic suspense, which I think is a thriller, Dream Wide Awake. This title is so interesting, along with the really bright, vibrant cover. Very, very interesting. What made this story so personal to you, Cindy?
Well, it's based on a premonition that I had of 9/11. In 2001 in July, 2 months before 9/11, I was sitting in my desk at work and all of a sudden the building seemed to be swaying, and I grabbed onto my desk and looked down and I could see like the gray boulders buckling beneath me, and it was a vision. And right after that vision, then I had this vision of floating towards a city. And I'd had these visions all my life, but I'm a very logical person. So I've always been like, yeah, that's coincidence that happened, or you're crazy, Cindy. I never kind of believed in it. But this happened 3 days in a row. So I started writing, taking notes, and then it happened, and it went all the way up until 9/11. And it would happen once or twice a week, always between 10 o'clock and 10:30 in the morning, and always while I was at work in the same spot. And when 9/11, when those buildings collapsed, that's where I was, at my desk in that same spot. So.
Oh my gosh.
It was hard to say it was coincidental.
Well, and I'm sure it gave you all sorts of feelings and wow.
It did. It did, because I thought, what good was it? I really couldn't determine exactly. I knew it was in Northeastern America, this building that was going to collapse, but I couldn't really determine where it was. I could not do it. And what would I do even if I had known it was New York City? What would I do? Call the police? I mean, so I always wondered what good was it? It didn't do anybody good, but it did give me this idea. And I think that's what started Dream Wide Awake. I thought, what if you could use those psychic abilities to maybe deter these, tragic events? And that's really what gave me the idea for it.
Wow, and it's powerful. How long did it actually take you to write this novel?
Usually it takes me about 6 to 8 months to write something. This one was a little bit longer because this was the second book that I wrote. And then it takes me a couple months to really go through it and get a good edit for some, so probably 10 months, I'd say.
So 10 months, and it is your second novel. It's a very interesting. How did the cover come to be? Because it is as interesting as the content.
Well, that was a family effort, actually, because we had several different ideas, and my daughter and her husband said, you know what, my niece actually was the artist, and she drew all these pictures of this little girl, Michaela, in the story. And then my daughter and her husband said, maybe we just want to see part of her face because, she's dreaming while she's wide awake. And so that's how it started. It was kind of a family effort.
Cindy, I noticed when I was reading the book that your character development is excellent.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the 6-year-old daughter, which is Michaela, of Jack Daly, and she plays such a key role. Did you pattern the little girl after someone in particular?
No. I actually had a hard time because I had decided early on that this little girl was not going to be frightened from what she saw like I was when I was a child, and most kids are. And I decided, eventually when you have a family of seers like that, somebody is going to be the best. And so I knew early on that Michaela I was going to make her the best. And I knew that she was going to have to be a strong character. So she's not afraid, and she's sort of matter-of-factly about it. And her mother, even though they want to protect her, they let her. They are very understanding of her abilities. So.
And that's interesting. So, do you have other seers in your family too, Cindy?
Not around me. My youngest daughter has seen ghosts when she was little, but she doesn't have premonitions. My oldest daughter doesn't want anything to do with it. It scares the living daylights out of her. And my son doesn't either. Neither did my parents or my grandmother, but my mom had an aunt like that, that had some abilities like that. So yeah, I guess it does run in families. I do know that.
One of the things I noticed, Cindy, in reading this particular tale is you really lead readers to suspect many people in this story. Was that your plan, or did you just have a story that took off on its own and ended up that way? Because it's, I had one thought and actually I had 4 thoughts and they totally were wrong, all of them.
I did. I don't want to reveal anything, but I did at the time I was a pantser. I mean, I flew by the seat of my pants. I'm not exactly like that anymore, a little bit, but I knew it was one of 3 people, and I had to, I wrote it so that it could be any, and then early on, I decided it wasn't the one because I liked the one character too much. And so I made it one of the other 2, but I was probably about halfway through before I really decided who the perpetrator was going to be. And then I had to go back and read everything and fine tune it and make sure that I hadn't said anything wrong. So that's about halfway through. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very, very surprising. So we've got some really interesting comments. in the chat window. So I'm going to take a pause and see if anybody wants to ask a question while we pull a couple of these comments up, because I really like it when people do comments. And, you know,
Okay,
obviously 9/11 reference brought a lot of comments about where people were during that period of time and what they were doing and what was going on, and such a tragic event that we all were aware of. So we have, let's see, who's got some nice comments? Oh my gosh, Linnea just ordered the paperback and fascinated with the premise. All right.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice. And Charles Brakefield says, hey, your story makes you sound a little bit like Nostradamus.
Yeah, I'm not that good at it. And I know there's my daughter calls me the closet medium because I have a hard time believing some of this stuff that goes through my head. My husband goes like this to me, and I'm like, you can get away from me. I can't get away from me. So I try to balance everything out. So it's tough. I actually took some classes from some certified mediums to be able to deal with the premonitions and with what I see. So.
And you're still having them?
I have not, I just saw somebody ask, I have not had a big premonition. I have not had one lately. I haven't had one in a few years. I do have smaller ones about people, usually that are in places that I'm in contact with. Like if everybody asks me, when you go to a cemetery, do you see anything? No, I don't. I see a lot in hospitals. I see they catch me by surprise. So.
Well, obviously, Joyce got a comment in here that she was in the classroom with students when the world stopped for 9/11. And I think that's a pretty unanimous kind of a feeling that went on. And then another comment that your personal sensitivities are quite interesting. So I think that you've got a lot of people that are fascinated with this background.
Yeah.
So, how important is the reference to the government's Project Dream in this particular story?
Well, I did some research on an old program called Stargate, and anybody who has been really in depth into intelligence in past wars will know that there's this thing called remote viewing that is really, people, some will say, oh, it was no good, it never helped anybody, and then others will say, oh, yes, it did. There were, some real good cases and some help. So that I did a little bit of studying on that first, and then I decided, what if they got these people, what if they got children and trained them in their youth, their minds are more open, would they be better? Because one thing I will tell you, I don't know if anybody here is a medium or knows anybody that's a medium, but I have a hard time. I see things, just like in the book, how I say visions come to me as movies in my head. I see things that way. Like I was at a bank and I had to get up and leave because I swear to God, this young girl's grandmother, I could see her wandering around behind her. And I had to leave because I'm like, I can't tell this girl that I don't know, hey, your grandmother's here. She wants to talk to you, because I feel crazy. But there's no other way to describe it as I see a movie in my head. However, I would never do readings for people or anything like that. Like I know some people do, but I can't tell the difference between what I'm seeing and sometimes what I want. Like there was this one kid that my daughter, I really liked him, and I thought she was going to marry that guy, and I thought I saw it, but it didn't. They broke up. But I think what it was is that that was one of my wants. So I don't know how the mediums that you go to understand the difference between the things that come to them all the time and not letting their imagination kind of distract them.
Right, take off with it on their own. That's very
correct. Right.
Yeah, Jen has a nice comment in here too, and she's fascinated with remote viewing and actually participated in a class at one point in time in Denver where we practiced it, which I think is just remarkable. I hardly ever hear anybody mentioning it, so that's good. You now have a new bond with
yes, yeah. Yeah, it is a different concept. So some people poo-poo it, and then other people are really fascinated by it.
So Mara has an interesting question. Have you ever foreseen someone's death?
No, no. Um, when I was little, when I was a child, I had scary, frightening things. I was a very frightening child, a frightened child. And I can remember telling my mom a few things. And my mother said to me, because it was back in the day when people didn't believe that. And my mother said to me, stop talking like that. You're going to end up in a mental institution. And I learned really quickly not to talk about it. I had a really close cousin who I confided in, and she went to her mother, and I scared the living daylights out of her. Well, I was scared myself. So I learned, and I don't know as this is completely true, but I think sometimes spirits and who contact are more negative, those more negative spirits with the children, because they can manipulate their thoughts, whereas I see mostly good things now. I did have a couple bad experiences where you just learn. That's one of the things I took a class about, is learning to block them out and not let them control me. So
yeah, I think that would be a little creepy. So that's good that you
it's very creepy at times. It is.
So, I mean, we mentioned before we started live that you're a really new member of our RBC, and you've been on the roster for a little over 2 months. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so glad to have found you.
And we're delighted that you got this prime interview spot so soon so you could share your experience about your book. So how has your overall experience of membership with our RBC been so far?
It's overwhelming. I'm so happy to meet everyone. I've seen almost every single person's name here because I go through and I read when I can, and I cannot believe the support on Twitter. I actually am trying to follow anybody who has retweeted me. And if I'm not following any of you, please let me know, because I'm trying to do it, and I was saying I am the most unorganized person, and I'm trying to be better at it. But I've been stalking everybody, reading some of the first chapters in your books. I have 3 weeks to get through a bunch of stuff, and then I'm going to start reading. I have only read 3 authors so far, but I have a couple of you in mind. I'd really like to read your book, so I'm loving it.
That's good. That's good. And there's some events that you can participate in during the year, yes. And you get to yes. learn about people that are in the club and all of their books. So I'm glad that you're getting good support. That's very exciting.
Great.
So Carl made a comment that was very interesting. I think it resonates a lot with your book, and that is the line between the physical and the spiritual realms is very narrow.
Oh yeah. I totally and utterly agree with that. I have always said the distance between here and there is a breath away. It's so thin. And I've learned if you delve into it, probably many of you know, the people here can raise their vibration level and the people on the other side lower it. And so you can meet in the middle and kind of talked a little bit to each other. I've never been the type that has gotten things really straight on. They come to me in movies. A lot of them are just like the 9/11 one. They're not completely clear, so I really don't know completely why they can't be more clear. I have a hard time hearing them too. Some people can hear them really very easily. I can't. So but he is right. It is a very thin line between here and there. Very thin.
So Randy Overbach had another interesting comment and quote from Shakespeare. In the words of Shakespeare, there is more to heaven and earth than is dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio.
I actually never heard that one, but that is very clear. Good. I'm going to have to, what was that in? I don't even know. That's very good.
It's from Hamlet.
Okay.
So that's awesome. That's a great comment. Thank you. So you described on some of the support that you get from our RBC. and that you're trying to, follow other people and join other people and read books about, or read pages of their books. And I mean, that's an awesome way to be part of this group and really, embrace all of the capabilities. Is there any support that you would really like to gain that you haven't seen so far?
From you guys?
Yeah.
No, I am like ecstatic for all the author support, because I don't really have an author friend. I had a lot of friends in the newspaper industry that I was friends with, but no full-time authors. And it's a whole different story. A news article, and you can perfect. A book, it's a big deal. So no, I am very thrilled. But I read Randy's book. He's one of the ones I read. Am I allowed to shout out to him? Randy, you did. It was awesome. Absolutely loved his book, and I'm hoping to read more of his and a lot of the other people on here.
Well, as people are saying, Cindy, you now have a lot of author friends. I mean, everybody in here is so positive. We got Carl, we've got Jan. I know Randy's going to pipe in. Does anyone have any questions for CJ at this point? Anything you'd like to just kind of delve in on? Raise your hand or unmute yourself. Patricia?
Oh, hi. I just unmuted myself because I couldn't. I don't know what I was doing. I don't have an arrow here. This is driving me crazy. No, Cindy, I'm writing a ghost story myself at the moment.
Oh, good.
I love.
Have you seen ghosts?
No. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people that would just dearly love to see a ghost. I really want to, but I can't. I don't have that capability, so it's driving me crazy. But your book sounds fascinating, and I'm going to go out and buy it as soon as.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
And what's the name of your book?
Oh, well, the one I'm writing now is Legacy of Danger. It's about a girl who inherits a castle in Romania.
Oh, wow.
It has nothing to do with Dracula, not a thing to do with Dracula. Just it's not another Dracula.
Comment in here too, that she was in the newspaper business and gained a lot of friends in that particular business, but now she has a whole bunch of RBBC friends. That's great.
That's awesome.
So Cindy, when you're not writing, what do you do to relax? What's your favorite thing?
My family will tell you I never relax. I'm very close to my 3 children and my granddaughter, but I'm a runner. So I'm through I used to run every day, and now I'm to every other day because of injuries. But yeah, I'm usually outside hiking or running in the afternoon. That's why I missed the other program the other day, because it came on and I got home and I saw it and I'm like, darn it all, I missed it. So I'm paying more attention. I've got the programs up on a board now.
Well, very good. Any other questions from our peanut gallery? Oh, all right. Joy? Unmute. I need you to unmute. On the lower left-hand corner, you need to unmute, please. Nope, you're still muted. Nani, can you unmute her?
No, I can't. We're going to have to pass on Joy's question because we can't get her unmuted.
Okay. So Cindy, we're just about out of time. So I really want to thank you for joining us here today on Eyes on the Book and allowing us to get to know you better, as well as sharing your unique story with us. And I look forward to you finishing up your authors page on RBBC so everyone can look at the other books that you have published. And they are several of them, and they all look really, really good.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now it's time for us to take a break and pay some bills. Nani, if you would be so kind. Thank you so much, Nani. What a great little trailer. To my studio audience, you make these shows extra special. So thank you for joining us here today. Remember, if you miss a live show, you can always find each and every episode in the archives of the RRBC site. This is your host, Rox Berkey, thanking you for joining us on another episode of Eyes on the Book. I wish you all a really happy Lover's Day tomorrow. Have a great one. Bye-bye.